G'day, you bloody legends, and welcome to the channel. I'm your movie mate, and today I have a question for you. So first off, I've got to tell you a little bit of a story. So me and one of my movie mates, we were talking recently about one of our favourite filmmakers, Christopher Nolan, and we're talking about specifically his new movie coming out, The Odyssey. So one of the things that we recently learned and we were discussing was that he is going to be adapting the source material pretty faithfully, and it's more of a fantasy film than a realistic take, which is kind of what I was expecting from him, given what he did with sort of previous IPs that he's worked on. I thought he was going to ground it and give it more of a realistic take, sort of like what they did with Troy a few years back, which apparently that was something he was interested in making as well, and was going to do something similar where he was going to strip back all the mythological sort of fantasy stuff of it and just strip it down like Wolfgang Peterson did in his Troy version, which I love that film. Anyway, so me and my mate were talking about that, and I said, I was a little bit worried about the film now that they chose to go in that direction, whereas my mate was the opposite. And pretty much most of my reasons just came from a little bit of a snobbish, background towards fantasy in general. Whereas all his reasons actually intrigued me a little bit, and it made me sort of think that I should probably broaden my horizons when it comes to this type of fantasy. In recent years, like a lot of yous, I believe as well, I've sort of lost interest in a lot of, the movie industry sort of big franchise stuff that's been coming out, whether it's, Marvel, DC, all the superhero stuff, all the stuff that's dominated for years now. I'm getting a bit over it, if I'm being honest, and I think I'm also starting to age out of it a little bit. So I was talking to my mate about that as well, and he was saying that if I, open my mind a little bit, there's a lot of good adult fantasy out there that I would probably like, specifically in the TV shows. Some of my favourite TV shows are Sons of Anarchy, Breaking Bad, that sort of thing, sort of crime fiction, I guess. And so I never really delved into some of the hype train that came with things like Game of Thrones. But my mate was explaining to me that all the things I pretty much like about like the crime genre is kind of in things like Game of Thrones. Like it is a bit of a gritty, realistic take, and it's not as maybe high fantasy as I thought it would be. One of the things I remember that turned me off fantasy years ago was I remember I got given a book. I think it was a Tolkien book, not Lord of the Rings, one of his other ones, I read I tried to read the first page a few times, and just every name of every character, every name of every place, the different races, like all that, I just couldn't get into it at the time. And at that time, I wasn't really reading fiction at all. I was more into non-fiction. So I never got into it, and from that moment forward, I kind of just went forward, and just fantasy wasn't my thing, if I'm being honest. But after this conversation with my mate, with the Odyssey coming out and that having more of the mythological side of it kept intact, and I've liked everything Christopher Nolan's done, so I sort of am still, that's one of my most anticipated movies of the year. There's some sci-fi stuff I've liked in the past that, maybe can be considered fantasy, like, even, like so Star Wars, and even some of the Marvel stuff you could say is fantasy-ish. Definitely some mythological stuff in there with all the Thor universe and all that. So I'm not kind of opposed to it. I guess at this point in my life, I feel like I'm aging out of some of that stuff. So I didn't really think fantasy would be my new thing. And I am looking for what's going to be my new thing, because, it's kind of been a bit alarming, I guess, to sort of fall out of love and feel like you've outgrown some of the things that have been there your whole life. So basically, my mate was saying that there's this new show on at the moment, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which is in the Game of Thrones universe, and he thinks that's a really good entry point, especially for anybody, but especially for someone like me, because he said it's not really that high fantasy, it's more of a medieval show. He obviously didn't want to spoil anything for me, but he thought it was kind of up my alley, especially being more adult driven. when I first saw it advertised, I didn't think it was going to be, I thought, oh, here we go again, like, the sort of warrior and the child sort of dynamic again. We've had that a lot of recent times. So that, I was just like, oh yeah, not for me probably, but I don't know, I've seen a lot of hype online, and my mate was, really hyping it up, and he was saying, look, if you like that, you're really going to like, Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, the other two shows. And yeah, so it just kind of, that's why I'm posing the question to you guys now, like as someone who's pretty much new to fantasy, hasn't watched most of these big shows or like I haven't watched Lord of the Rings, and that's something else that he was saying, but he was saying, oh, maybe not start with that just because it is a bit more high fantasy, with the races and all that stuff, and that book I was telling you about earlier with all the different hard to remember names of places and people and whatnot. But that, yeah, potentially is something I'm willing to explore. And I thought if I'm going to delve into some sort of new sort of realm for me, sort of area of interest, I've always thought about doing sort of a YouTube channel where I track the progress and share that with a community, build a community that follows along. And I mean, fingers crossed, hopefully I enjoy it and stick with it, and it becomes like a new passion, a new area of interest that I want to share with the world and build a community around. So that's what I think this channel is going to focus on. Again, I got to like it first, but like my mate said, like this show is a good starting point, not just because of, he thinks it's something I'll be into, because some of my favorite movies too are like sort of medieval, I guess, like historical fiction, like, Braveheart, Gladiator, Troy, as I mentioned before. So he thinks this will be up my alley, and he said it's only 30-minute episodes and there's only 6 of them. And as I'm recording this video, there's 4 out. So what I thought I'd do is I would, if I enjoy it, I'll record, all 4, and then hopefully be able to watch 5, with everyone, and then 6 with everyone. And yeah, the last couple of years I've also got into reading a little bit more. Like I said, I lost a little bit of interest in the film industry as a whole. Like most genres, I think, have been sort of declining. So I sort of, I've always loved storytelling. So I, have got back into reading fiction, a little bit more historical fiction than anything probably. So, but I am open to, potentially some of this more adult fantasy. So I know this is, all of these Game of Thrones ones are based on books. I know some of them are pretty big, so I don't know if I'll start there, but I know this Night of Seven Kingdoms one, that is, like a very short novella, so maybe I'll track that on this channel as well. I'm not too sure. Like, it's obviously, there's more interest probably in the movie TV side of things, so I'll probably mostly do that. But yeah, whatever my interest takes me, I kind of want to go down that road, and if I feel like sharing it, I'll definitely share it. So what I'm thinking of doing, so I'd love some feedback if anyone's watching this and wants to come on this sort of journey with me. What I'm thinking of doing is recording obviously videos like this where I sort of pitch an idea, and then do watch-alongs. And I know a lot of people, they'll sort of edit them and do like smaller truncated versions that they put on YouTube, and then they have like the full length watch-along on like a Patreon. That first option I'm not as interested in. I guess it is maybe a way where I can build like, like the channel and get like people to find me. But I'm kind of, I don't know, like I like the idea of, so what I was thinking potentially is I would record the watch-alongs and put them on Patreon, because obviously I know you can't put the full-length stuff on YouTube, so put them on, so sort of do a video like this where I get people's attention, hopefully they, are interested, watch it with me on Patreon. Don't have to watch it though, because what I was thinking is, one thing I've learnt from watching these reactions is, I like the ones where they basically watch it and they react, and obviously, they be animated and, they're not just sitting there like this. So obviously, like, I'll be aware of that, and I'll be like, I'm watching it with mates. That's kind of the idea. You'll become my movie mates, and I'll watch it with you, and I'll make comments like I would if you were sitting there with me. But at the end of it, I'll definitely, like, I'm not a reviewer, I'm not a critic, but I'll definitely have a discussion at the end of it, what I thought of each episode. And I thought I can definitely cut those parts out and put it on YouTube, so people can follow the journey just through, I guess, my reviews or discussions on each episode of whatever I'm watching. And if they want to see my reactions, then they can go and they can sync up their copy or whatever and watch along on Patreon. So that's obviously completely optional. I'm not trying to do this as, gatekeep or, keep things behind a paywall. Like, that's not my intention. It's just more of, I think it might be a cool way to do it, just where I have the full watch along on there and then just put reviews basically onto the channel. So if you want to see what I thought live watching it, then you can see that. But if you just want to hear my thoughts at the end, and if I, join the fandom, I guess, you can kind of keep track that way. So I don't know if that's the best way to do. I know that, if I'm editing them down, there's a lot of copyright, and putting them on YouTube, like, there's a lot of copyright things. It's obviously a lot more time to do that. And I'm not sure right now. I obviously haven't posted anything on this channel. It's a brand new channel. I don't know if the interest is quite there to put in all that sort of time and effort if it comes to copyright strikes and things like that, because obviously I work a full-time job, and this is just something I'm doing as a hobby to try and find some mates and build a community, and I am in it for that. Like, I'm in it for the mateship and the community that can be built. Like, in my world, I've have very few friends that I can actually talk to on a sort of deep level when it comes to film and nerdy stuff, fandom. I really want to try and build that in an organic way, in a real way. And ideally I'd do like live discussions maybe every week, discussing what I've watched that week, that'll be shared with everyone on the channels. That's pretty much it. I don't know if anyone's going to even see this video, if anyone's going to be interested to come along on the journey, but if you are, let me know. And if you are, also let me know if you think this Knight of Seven Kingdoms is a place to start. I think that's where I am going to start, just because of the reasons I listed earlier. I'd really love to see some of you guys in the comments. Obviously subscribe to the channel if you want to join the journey and follow along. I'm not going to push anything on anyone, but I would love to get to know some of you guys and make some more movie mates.